when we think something's going to save our life like that, we live in survival around it, right? Like it's like,
well, it is true that once you become a tattoo artist, all your problems do get solved. It's
right,
actually a true fact. Everyone can agree with me on that. So yeah. All right, welcome back to the Artful Dollar. It's me, Ryan Roi, financial coach, artist, spiritual seeker, student of life, and I am excited to share a person who's very close to me, my younger brother, Soren Roi, who is a professional barber, but we've both been artists our whole life. And, you know, he's been very involved in the music scene and doing all kinds of, you know, anything creative. Even when we were kids, I remember you'd like be duct taping together any number of toys that we would break apart, and we'd set them on fire and glue them. And so we just kind of grew up being very creative, and now we're both, you know, entrepreneurs to an extent. Yeah. And so I thought it would be really interesting to bring you on and talk about barbering and tattooing, because there's a lot of similarities. They're very adjacent industries in many respects, but there's tremendous differences, I'd say, in the mentality around business, around mindset, and I thought it'd be really cool to discuss that. So yeah, thanks. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be here. And yeah, I mean, off the bat, I definitely agree with that statement that there is differences in mentalities between the tattoo industry and the barbering industry. There's a lot of similarities, not just in how they work, but also in like the types of people that come to the industries, right? Like that we are these creative people. We are these people who work with our hands. We're people who often I find have like had some other career before this one. I don't know actually if that's totally true for tattooing. Maybe it is now.
I think these days it is pretty common. Yeah.
I find it very common in barbering. People have had some sort of career. And it's true for me too. This really is like my second career. I was a bartender forever, a musician. I don't know, nightlife. I was in nightlife for a long time. And so it's just this type of person that comes to the industry. Let's say the type of person that sees an opportunity in these jobs, right? They say, oh, I can do something with this. I can make a thing for myself with this. Yeah, I think they're very similar. But for some reason, the people, at least recently entering into the barbering industry, are very business-minded, like super business-minded, and even just kind of approach it maybe even more so not from the angle of like, oh, I'm a creative person, I like working with my hands, so I'm going to become a barber. But they're like, hey, I need a launching point. I need a business, and I need something that I can get into and start making money like in a year, 2 years, you know?
I mean, there's a lot of ways that you could start making money in a year or 2 years.
Totally.
I think something that really attracted me to tattooing, and I don't know if this is the same for you or with barbering, is it felt like something that I could own my ability to earn money. Like if I worked at a shop and it didn't work out, I still had my hands and my tools. I could make money anywhere. And there was something about that was attractive to me. Also the fact that like I could live my life the way I wanted. I didn't have to work behind a desk, you know. It was sort of this freedom and this liberation and autonomy in a career choice. Do you feel like that's something for barbers?
That was definitely something for me. And so I'm also a teacher in the industry, and that's something I'm always trying to emphasize with my students. If students are like kind of not showing up to the plate, I'm like, you guys get that you can take this education, this skill, and it's yours. Like no one can take it from you, you know? And I do remember specifically for myself, I was in bartending industry before that. And so that was sort of, bartending for me was a certain level of that autonomy that we speak of. I was getting this like kind of quick cash in pocket, always had money.
But you still rely on the business. Like you can't just set up a bar on the street corner like a lemonade stand and just make money.
Not only that, but you know, let's say I'd earned my seniority as a bartender over the course of 3-4 years or something. I mean, honestly, it was more like 8 years. If that bar shut down or I got fired or any number of things happened, you can't go to another bar and just say, hey, I was making this much a night at my last.
Right. You can't be like, I was the big dog over here, so I'm going to be the big dog over here now. Like
Exactly.
But with barbering and tattooing, like you have a portfolio, you have hours, like you can show, you have clientele, you can kind of you can build something somewhere and you can bring it with you wherever you go to a certain extent.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that is also really interesting. I like things that I feel like I'm building something. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I want to circle back. So, yeah, you also teach barbering, and you have for a couple years now?
Yeah, I've been a teacher. So I work, and it's interesting because I'm in a position now where I'm starting to move into the entrepreneurial space. So for the past, I don't know, 4 years, I've been working for a company, a big chain of barbershops. And that works on like a commission format, right? The barbers make a commission. And it's been great. It's been a great experience. And I think it's honestly, this specific barbershop, the specific chain of barbershop has really launched many, many barbers' careers. But I'm now at the point where I'm starting to just look for myself and say, well, what do I want? And take it to the next level, because yes, I have these skills and I can take them wherever I go, right? But I'm still very much relying on the company for their promotion, their marketing, their just running the business in general. So I'm interested now in like learning for myself what it takes to do all those things.
But are other barbers attacking you for teaching people how to cut hair?
That's a good question.
Like, is there do you get slack for that?
I'm just gonna say, like, no one can attack me. Like, have I had people treat me weird?
Is anyone accusing you of ruining the barbering industry?
No. I haven't. No, definitely not. Yeah, that sort of thing. Because the hair has always been an industry, right? There's always been Vidal Sassoon and these big names. So while the barber industry, like, yes, the salon world is a whole other level of the ceiling is even higher there. Barbering, I don't, I'm not going to declare the ceiling anywhere in barbering, but barbering has never been that big of a platform. It's definitely at its biggest now. Barbering is at its most famous now. It's at its most progressive now. More people are coming in than ever. It does share more of that background with tattooing, where it's like the small local mom and pop shop, right?
Yeah.
And it is more about, back in the day, at least, it was more about apprenticeships. That used to be a bigger thing in the barbershop industry. It's not so much anymore. More so you go to school, but school sucks. The barbering schools you guys in the tattoo world are lucky.
Tattoo schools suck. I mean, for the majority of the ones that I have seen, and not just, I've talked to a lot of people that have gone to tattoo schools, and I'm not going to speak to any specific one, but like the ones that I have heard of, the artist said it was terrible, and they were willing to do whatever it took to get their foot in the door. And is that very similar, you'd say, in barbering?
Honestly, the whole school thing is a whole other conversation that I would love to talk to you about, but like we would, just to not get so off topic, because I have so many opinions about it, but it's like such a whole other topic. But my point just being that barbering is in the middle, let's say, between the salon world of like education is such a thing in it. You're buying education, you're paying for education all the time. Then the tattoo industry, where it's supposed to be like all hardcore earned. I fought for this. I learned it tattooing on the floor. The barbering world is right in the middle.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It's right in the middle, and it's definitely moving more towards like, hey guys, let's get everybody making it. Let's get everybody, like, when people are upping their price,
there's camaraderie.
Yeah,
and which I don't see a lot of at all in the tattoo industry. And I would love to see more of. Like, do you feel like everyone wins because of that camaraderie?
Well, so I've been in a company, a large company. So we've definitely created a culture. And I think in a company, you have to create that culture that, everybody wins. And when when this person's getting a promotion, what's happening is that, their clients that aren't going to move up with them, they're going to funnel down to the people below, so just like everybody's winning, I'm learning more what it's like outside of the company. And I'm seeing let's just say the culture around it, or the people that are leading barbers to independence, have that type of attitude. And it's really refreshing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah. And so in tattooing, I feel like, the world of mentor, like there's apprenticeships, right? Where you find some older experienced person And at first, like the idea of paid apprenticeships, that was like super taboo. Like you don't pay someone, you just like earn it, or you're cool enough where
Yeah.
you get in with the cool kids,
Yeah,
and
totally.
then you get
Well, and I
treated like
want to
shit
say,
for 2 years.
I mean, it's funny because I grew up hanging around tattoo shops, right? Even before you, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. I was hanging out at Fun City, and I was friends with Big Steve and all these people, and I felt so cool about it. And I judged
Yeah.
you because you were getting in where you could. You know what I mean? I wasn't trying to become a tattoo artist, but I had it in my mind. No, this is how you're supposed to do it, and you were just doing it with whatever opportunity showed up. Right?
Whatever crappy street shop I could scramble
Right.
my way into. Yeah.
So
And I was always like, oh man, I would love to, connect with them. So I was always jealous of you in that sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, but I've always been a bit stuck in that mindset of it has to look this way, it has to be this way. This is the way those people did it, so it's the way that I have to do it, and it's something that I've really started to shed, through seeing you do, literally being able to look back and say, oh yeah, when Ryan started off his career, it did not look like what I thought it should look like.
Right.
So
I worked in street shops that were basically just selling bongs and crack pipes, and it was pretty wild scene. But it was just like whatever it took to get the result I wanted to get, and I didn't have any defined way that it should look, and I think that gave me a lot of freedom to approach it, in ways that other people might not. So paid apprenticeships, that was like, and then people started doing it. And I've heard, people like, that they judge people for charging, but like, why not charge for an apprenticeship? You're giving someone years of experience, and then now tattoo schools are like this whole taboo topic. Like the fact that I'm even saying those words on this podcast, like I'm going to get people hating on me for it. But the inevitability is that we're going to have tattoo schools. Like it's going to happen. And the people that are doing it now are some of the least qualified people to do it for the most part, what I've seen. I'm not going to say everyone, but and so in barbering, it's a very different mentality. They're like, yeah, let's learn, let's teach how to barber, let's teach how to cut hair, let's teach how to market, and I'm just curious, kind of like, what is that? What is that like?
Well, again, I do want to say all of that in the barbering world has come, I think, from the trickle down of the salon industry. So it is interesting. Yeah, the barber industry.
When you say the salon industry, just tell me what you mean by that, because I'm not super familiar.
Yeah, okay, that's
I
right.
kind of know, but
let me break it down a little bit. When you get into the hair industry, you can get a cosmetology license or you can get a barbering license, and it's two different schools. Also, to be clear, in different states, it's different amounts of hours. It's actually a very complex system. Now, whether you get a barbering license, which I got, and in New York at the time, it was an extremely less amount of hours than to get my cosmetology license. The cosmetology license would be the counterpart, Cosmo, where you're going into the salon world, if the outdated terms, women's hair versus men's hair, these types of things. In the barbering world, you're licensed to do anything a cosmetologist is licensed to do. You're actually licensed to do more because you are also licensed to use a straight razor, which a cosmetologist is not.
And you can also pull teeth, right? And perform minor surgical procedures.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah. So when I say the cosmetology industry or the salon industry, and I'm speaking as someone who is pretty ignorant to it, but let's say, hair was always, it was like hair is a women's thing. Fashion is a women's thing. Style is a women's thing, right? And then men had barber shops, which was like, an old man who his father taught him.
Crew cut, yeah.
Exactly. And I don't know, probably then, obviously in the 60s, people grow their hair, and then in the 70s, they start to learn what to do with it. And, and then the 80s, there's all these stuff. And the two start to kind of merge. And there's some famous figures of people who, made men's hair, start to elevate men's hair and stuff like that. My point being that the barbering industry has always had this trickle down from the salon industry, the cosmetology world, of people pivoting between the two and bringing barber things into the cosmetology world and cosmetology stuff into the barbering world. I think it's probably trickled down more from the cosmetology world into the barbering world more effectively than barbering into the cosmetology
And
world.
when you say trickle down, are you speaking about like education, business,
Right.
like
So I'm saying as a
development?
culture, as a culture, all the education, but also because there's just more things to learn now. There's more techniques that are coming out and being taught, which to me is a very, like, the cosmetology world there are companies that are generating trends to launch new, like balayage and ombre and these new trends, so that people are coming in getting more hair products, more processes. You get what I'm saying? In
Yeah, yeah.
barbering, it's stuff like that is only started to happen recently, where people are literally coming out with new products of, oh, let me spray on, let me fill in your patches on your beard, let me do this stuff,
Yeah,
right?
filling my shit because my
Yeah,
shit's mad
yeah.
patchy. Yeah.
So,
Someone just cut my hair, so I'm gonna just
yeah,
show it off real
yeah.
quick. Got the business in the front, the
This is
party in the back.
classic. Yeah, but so that's when I say trickle down. I mean, it's an all around thing. Both there's actual techniques. I mean, the way that we teach cutting hair, the way everybody teaches hair nowadays to cut hair, what they call palm to palm cutting, is taken from cosmetology, and that's a technique. Before people did palm to palm, the big barber thing was just scissor over comb. That's kind of like the classic, like just like chopping away kind of thing.
Right, right, right.
Which is like, I don't know if there's any correlation to this in tattooing. To me, the palm to palm cutting, it's very scientific, it's very mathematical, it's very systematic. Whereas the scissor over comb thing is, it's something it's like it comes out of you. You have to just know the head and the hair so well that you can just kind of it comes out of your hands rather than your mind, But it's harder to teach. You can't teach it. It's the type of thing you have to just observe and learn and practice and do.
Right. I think in tattooing, there's just so many styles. And I think and I don't even know if this is possible, and maybe it is to an extent, like there are people that are taking their style, like maybe it's Japanese or geometric or realism is a big one, and they are breaking it down into a little bit more of a method or a theory or a system. But there's just a wider range, I'd say. Yeah. And so barbers, like what does an average barber make in a year, would you say, if you had to guess?
God, honestly, and I was just saying, I'm so uncomfortable even like talking about it, because the truth is, let's say it. Oh man, it's really hard to say. It's really hard to say. But I am coming
like in a month, I would say, like, because now I've talked to thousands of tattooers. I'd say the average tattooer that I speak to is like doing between $3,000 and $5,000 a month of net take home. Yeah, and now there's a lot of tattooers that are doing well over $10,000 a month.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say more like $6,000 a month for barbers.
Yeah, for barbers. Yeah,
and that's actually that's a number that I heard somebody else say recently, and it resonated with me, and I started doing some math, and that felt like it's really up and down. Also, it's hard for me to judge because I was also getting paid as an educator, which was
right
separate. I'm gonna say $5,000 to $6,000. But again, so I'm only recently really opening my eyes because I've been steeped in this company, and now I'm starting to open my eyes to the world of like independent barbering and what's possible when I'm not paying a commission, essentially.
Right. Which that's a big conversation in tattooing as well.
Right, I'm sure, and I think it's actually something that I think the barber industry has to look at the tattoo industry for, because the reality is the way that people shop for tattoos is the model that we need to be pushing and generating for barbering, right? That
Interesting.
People are, essentially treating, social media as a digital marketplace, and your page being your storefront. Somebody walks by it in the form of scrolling, and they say, whoa, that looks like a nice little haircut. Oh, he's in my area. Cool. And have it,
Totally. I'd say this to people all the time. Like, the walk-in traffic for tattoo shops is now on social media, but tattooers aren't really using it that way. They're using it as a portfolio, But from the large number that I've seen, and some of them are younger tattooers, newer tattooers are engaging with people in DM conversations, but a lot of tattooers are not, and they're
Yeah.
like they have some weird system that
Yeah.
is
And
a little
here's the
clunky.
thing where the two industries differ is that, well, one, I want to say, I think it's much easier for tattoo artists to build a large following on social media than it is for barbers. And I don't personally have a large following. I haven't needed it. And now I'm starting to learn all this stuff. But yeah, my experience of, I have a lot of friends who are tattoo artists, a lot of friends who became tattoo artists just a couple years ago, and even more on like the call it the scratcher side of things, and just started putting out stuff and just blew up, and their Instagrams blew up. And I know I know people too. I feel like it happens pretty often. I don't feel like that necessarily happens for barbers unless they're putting in a lot of work. What I'm seeing is it's really you really have to you just have to be generating a lot of content and a lot of stuff to hit high numbers in social media and keep your, let's just say, like, keep your storefront, your digital marketplace looking appealing to people. I'm seeing now what it takes. I think it takes more as a barber than it does as a tattoo artist. I also think tattoo artists will always have this little edge to them of like, they're the cool guys. Tattoo artists will always be the cool guys, and whatever they can do to be cooler than you will always kind of like, it will hold everybody back in some way. And as a professional cool guy, like, I'm saying this totally for myself, like, like whatever, for some reason in the tattoo world, whatever you do, it's kind of like, I'm a big fan of like Playboy Cardi, and Playboy Cardi, doesn't talk to his fans. He cancels shows. He doesn't show up. He does all this stuff. And his fans are like, yeah, yes, bring it,
Right.
For some reason, the tattoo world is a little bit more like that in a way. Am I right or wrong? I don't know.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I feel like there's trends, and I feel like that was kind of a trend for maybe the past 5 to 8 years, where tattooers could like be almost like this mysterious, like even oppositional.
Yeah,
and it was really, really popular. I'm starting to see that trend actually die out. And now you're seeing it like tattooers really needing to show up a lot more. I don't know if the word is professional or open, but I see a trend now happening where tattooers are realizing, oh, I don't want to show up as wildly irresponsible, super cool, fuck the world. I want to show up as, hey, I'm a collected, calm professional. I know my shit. I'm really smart. I'm confident, and I want to present myself that way. I'm starting to see that more being the trend.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that probably correlates to the type of people that are getting tattoos too, right?
Yeah.
Like, a mother with 2 children doesn't want to go to some weird basement and that's dimly lit get like a tattoo by a guy that she's never seen his face. You know what I mean?
Right, and the growth in the tattoo industry is like the mom with 2 kids, or
right,
the investment banker, or the doctor.
Yeah, and it's like, we want that, or no, I don't care, but tattoo artists want that. There's no.
Yeah, absolutely. And in barbering, I feel like there's been, you've saying it's growing more now than ever. Why do you think that is the case? Do you think there's just more people have hair now than ever?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the truth is, definitely something happened with COVID. And it's weird, right? Because like the barbershop shut down during COVID. I think what it was is when the barbershop shut down, I mean, and this is true about YouTube in general, or social, like TikTok took over because of everybody in quarantine. Right. So I think what happened was the social media took off, and then people just started seeing like, oh, this looks cool. I mean, I think people get into barbering. Really, the reason I got into barbering, I have a memory of getting my hair cut in one of the barbershops owned by the company that I work for many, many years ago. It wasn't that I was like thinking, oh, I want to be a barber, but I was getting my haircut in there. I was like, man, this looks like fun. Like, these guys look like they're having fun. And I think that's probably why everybody gets into barbering, because they see people, making money and having fun. Probably why they get into tattooing, right? I'm sure everybody gets into tattooing, probably went to tattoo shop and they said, whoa, these guys are like having fun and like, whoa, and I'm paying them this, so that means they're making that.
Yeah, just social media kind of trend. And I think people are, even me, like I'm growing out my hair. I'm like trying something new. Like maybe there's more people like myself that are like, oh, it's a form of self-expression. And I feel like
I mean, look,
tattooing, barbering, people are, I think we're coming into an age of authentic self-expression that actually hasn't, it's precedented.
yeah, I agree 100%. I also, things are kind of coming to me as I realize we all see ourselves a lot more than we did. Like I'm looking at myself now as I'm talking to you, right?
Right, right.
We're all seeing ourselves more. We're all being broadcasted more. We're all being recorded more. We're all being filmed more. We're all being photographed more, and we're all just a little more maybe present to what we look like. I also think, I mean, everything. Look, it started with Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, right? Of like men just taking on their looks, and the truth is, in a way, this is what I've been yelling at you about for a while. Because I've been sort of just saying, like, Ryan, you're doing all this stuff. You're on camera. So it's like you need to just do something to just. I get it. You want to look a little wild, but you need to do something that lets people know you're not. Like you know what you look like. You want people to know that you are aware of what you look like, right? As you say,
Sure.
it's creepy if you meet somebody and you say, "Oh, this person really." Oh, they have Cheeto dust on there. It's like uncanny, right?
Have I shown up with Cheeto dust yet?
I don't know.
Just like making content with like
But
orange
look,
fingers.
I mean, it's also it's like almost my job to be hypersensitive, or you could say
Totally.
I've always been sensitive to aesthetic, and that's why I think I've always been hypersensitive to how people are perceiving me, and that's for better or worse, right? It's a strong suit and it's a weak spot, right? But it has definitely led me to my career, because I can put myself in somebody's body in a way mentally, and just I know what it is to glance at yourself in the mirror and know when something looks off and know when everything looks in place, and I want to give that feeling to people that when they look in the mirror, it's not that like they don't cringe at it.
Yeah, I mean, really, the barbering, tattooing, now they are the business of self-expression. They're the business of giving you, the client, a way to express themselves that feels authentic. Creates their individuality. That's really what you're selling. And so you yourself kind of have to also show up
I agree.
as an authentic expression of who you are.
That's honestly really amazing. Like that's something that maybe I've wanted to be able to express to like students, even that I've never fully. Because the truth is, when first of all, it's exhausting working. Tattoo artists, you you tattoo how many people a day? Like I don't know, maybe on a busy day 5. I don't know.
Yeah, I've done busy days where I'm doing like 4 or 5 like medium-sized tattoos. Yeah.
I do 16 haircuts a day. I'm now again. I don't want to be doing that for much longer. I'm trying to get my prices higher and my, you know.
Yeah, cut back and yeah.
But here's what I'm trying to express is that the mental exhaustion, the spiritual exhaustion from not being self-expressed to 16 people. You know what I mean? To having 16 conversations in which I can't be self-expressed, or something is wrong. I feel like something's wrong, or I feel like my life isn't worth sharing. That's really the thing. If I'm living like my life isn't worth sharing with people, and then I'm literally being asked 16 times a day by people, so what's going on, man? How you doing? What's going on in your life? Tell me, I want to know. It gets really painful if I'm not living a life that is exciting, and that's both really daunting.
Yeah.
And, it's a huge responsibility, but it's just like, okay, that means I have to do that, like I have to be doing things. I have to plan vacations for myself so I can talk to my clients about them. You know what I mean? Like, and is that really the worst thing? Like, I don't know why this is where I need some more help from you. Like, I literally can't get myself to save and plan for a vacation. And I'm like, but I know it's this point. Like, if I don't do this, I'm going to start not wanting to be, not being present. Like, if I don't take care of myself, if I don't rest myself, I don't want to be with my clients. I'm not being fully self-expressed. If I'm not taking the actions in my life that I want to be taking, I'm not being fully self-expressed. They're asking me about what's going on in my life. I don't want to talk about what's going on in my life. Now I'm pissed at them because they're, it's just really nasty cycle that I've fallen into many times.
I think tattooers know exactly what you're talking about. Like that 100% can identify with, especially when you're like live at a fucking tattoo shop every day, all fucking day. You're like, what do I have to talk about in my life? Like I'm here. This is it. This is all I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tough. And like here's the thing. I think people sometimes talk down on that. I just want to say, like, I fall into that all the time. It's not a healthy way of being, or it's not a healthy way of thinking. It means we're not taking care of ourselves. And we have to start to recognize that just as human beings. Like, it doesn't matter what industry we're in, right? We have, like, it's just been one of the biggest things. I'm very lucky. I've, have people in my life, even coworkers, like who've, pushed me to like take better care of myself.
Yeah.
But I just want to express that I do not look down on anybody who is like, quote unquote, stuck in that mentality.
Sure. Totally.
I identify with it a lot as well. I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like there's this like, oh yeah, don't be in with those people who, they're the mindset, whatever. And I'm just like, no, like we really need to all help each other out.
Yeah. But I think what I'm gathering from what you're saying, and that I do agree with, is like at the end of the day, we're in the business of self-expression. And that means we also need to find for ourselves what is that authentic self-expression that really fills our tank. And we need to part of our job is to kind of live like that. And I do think as an artist, as a creative, as an entrepreneur, and working in the self-expression business in a sense, like that needs, or I want to see people prioritizing that more. I think it will be good for everyone. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have some faith. Like what we're talking about is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, let's just acknowledge, like, people are dying. There are huge massacres going on. And we're talking about, like, are we self-expressed in life enough? Right. But we have to, like, understand that what we're talking about is like life force, like it's not a small thing, and that when we can express it, like, miracles happen, right? This isn't about being self-expressed so that just my life works, right? I think that's
right. So that you can get more likes on Instagram, right, or something like that.
It's really not. If I can get freedom, if I can get financial freedom out of having an Instagram page get big, and then that allows me to, do what I'm committed to doing in my life, whether that's have a family or, whatever it is.
I think a part of self-expression is actually knowing that I can make an impact on other people's lives that is positive, that improves their lives. Like, for me, that is a big part of my authentic self-expression. And I actually think a lot of people deep down want that for themselves. I think there's nothing better, and I'm sure barbers, when I do someone's tattoo and they look in the mirror and they freak out. They're just like, oh my God, it looks so much better than I thought it was going to look. I can't believe this. Thank you so much. like that feeling, I'm sure, when I looked in the mirror after you cut my hair, dude, I felt awesome. I was like, ooh, Soren fucking elevated me. Like, that feeling of being elevated. Yeah. I like being able to give people that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of joy. I think for me, I mean, it's weird. Maybe that element of it is like I'm almost like a little numb to it, because, like I said, I do 16 haircuts a day, or it's almost like I just expect it in a way, like, not to brag, but I'm just like, yeah. So I, well, no, I get more pleasure out of, like, because I knew you were sort of like unsure about what we were going to do. So I almost like to, like, play the fool a little bit or something, like you have to keep things exciting for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, all you Artful listeners, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for giving a listen to the podcast. I hope that it's bringing some value to you in your life. That's really why I started this podcast. And if you're getting something useful or valuable out of it, I just want to invite you to go rate and review this podcast. It really helps me out. And it also helps other people find this podcast so that they can get some value out of it. They can feel more free around money and just get some wisdom and some knowledge that we're trying to share on here. So again, I'm not really asking anything else of you other than to just leave a review and rating for this podcast. It really helps me out and helps other people find us. So thanks and enjoy the show. So do you see yourself barbering this is, you feel, because you've done a lot of different stuff. Do you feel like this is the long-term game, or you might jump into something else? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I've only started to think about that recently. I mean, I know I have like things that I want in my life. It's weird. I'll say, like, I have a weird detachment from barbering, and I think it's a healthy one. That I don't know. I'm not too critical of myself because I just don't like barber is I wear it as a very loose identity. I'm not attached to it. If somebody criticizes my work, it's okay. I don't beat
I
myself
think
up.
that's really healthy. I think that's something a lot of tattooers should try on, because it gets so sunk into this identity as a tattoo artist. I remember when I was moving from full-time tattooing to part-time coaching to full-time coaching, and kind of tattooing completely taking a back seat, there was this identity death, and it was hard. It was really, I was crying. I was like, who am I? What am I doing? Like, it was scary. It was like stepping off of a ledge. And I think a lot of tattooers, right, but a lot of tattooers, they're just like, I'm going to do this until I die, and I'm always a tattooer. And when I'm at a party, I'm a tattoo artist. When I'm at the beach, I'm a tattoo artist. And I don't think that's healthy. Yeah.
No, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because again, we have to look at the types of people that are attracted to these things. And I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, I think we both, dreamt of being tattoo artists when we were kids. I would say, like, I remember us sitting in bed and like planning out our like tattoo sleeves, our body, our full body sleeves. But
I was going to get half my body was going to be all devils and demons, and the other half was going to be all angels. It was going to be epic. No one ever thought of such a brilliant idea.
Yeah. But but I want to say, like, I remember considering, like, oh, maybe I could be a tattoo artist. Like, yeah, I could do that, and the rest of my life is solved. You know what I mean? Like, that sort of thing of like, oh, if I like, okay, I can make money and I can be, like when you can see yourself in a position, you see a tattoo artist making money, they kind of look like you, they're into the same stuff as you. You're like, oh, I can do that, and that's gonna solve all of my problems in life. And I think we tend to do that with things, and for some reason, I think that happens with people in tattooing. Like, it just seems like this fix all, because it's like, oh, I'm an artist and I can make money. When we think something's going to save our life like that, we treat it, we live in survival around it, right? Like, it's like,
well, it is true that once you become a tattoo artist, all your problems do get solved. It's right, actually a true fact. Everyone can agree with me on that. So yeah. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, you latch onto it. It's like, this is everything. This is what's
going to get me through life. I'm going to do this, and I've got it solved, and now I can kick back and just be tattoo artist, and it's, or whatever it is, barber or bartender. I mean, I don't think I ever envisioned myself being a bartender forever, but there was that part of me that was like, oh, this is steady and stable, and I can, like, and it's weird, it's not steady or stable, but like, I just got so attached to working at the bar and being a bartender that I had a huge identity death as well when I left the bar to be a barber. And it was completely holding me back. Like, I wanted to leave the bar so badly, but I was so terrified of the financial risks, just leaving that stability, and also, of that identity, because that working at the bar kept me involved in a music scene. It kept me plugged into a social scene, which I'm sure, I don't know, whatever, people kind of work through in this stuff, but like whether you're, even a tattoo shop, right? Like, leaving that is a community, and it's scary to leave that for, maybe you love the tattoo shop even. But,
I mean, even this like idea that like, and I think this is something that a lot of tattooers should start to consider, is like, you might not want a tattoo for the rest of your life, and that's okay. Yeah. And if you stop tattooing professionally, speaking as someone that has kind of essentially stopped tattooing professionally, that doesn't mean that you're not a tattoo artist. And I think that was something that I had to was like, you know what? Just because I do 5 to 10 tattoos a year at this point doesn't mean that I'm not a tattoo artist. I love it. Tattooing has given me a life beyond my wildest dreams, but I'm still a tattoo artist, and that's okay.
it's funny just going back to like some of the differences between the two industries. What I'm noticing about the barbering industry is that it's maybe even more of a badge of honor to have retired from barbering.
Ooh,
Like
interesting.
that. Yeah. Like I don't know. Again, I'm just entering into this world of more like independent barbers and learning how people run their businesses and learning how they run their social media to do all this kind of stuff. So I'm sort of just picking up on these like little, the little like social cues, which is, I don't know, just like my specialty, I guess. That's how my brain works, is like, oh, like what's cool? What do these people think is cool? So what do I, where do I fit in and all that stuff?
So in barbering, what's cool is making it so big that you don't even need a barber anymore, and you can like
Yeah, and now you're I don't know, maybe I don't know, just an influencer, or you're doing whatever. I don't know. Maybe you're just teaching. I think that would be a big one too. Just teaching.
That's not cool in tattooing.
Right.
I
Yeah,
am super not cool. I failed at being cool in
to be a
tattooing.
barber, man. I mean, it's true. It's true. We do, like I'm mentally much more of a tattoo artist, and you're mentally much more of a barber.
That is a very accurate observation. I'd agree.
Well, but I think we both had to break through the like cool thing. Like you.
Yeah.
I think
I broke through it a long time ago.
Yeah, at a younger age, right? Yeah, exactly. But you still
I
have
gave the fuck up. I was like, nah.
No, but it's still been a process, and you're very open about that, right? As building, this whole thing, and like you're saying, giving up the tattooing, just all of it, right? And we're always going through these deaths, and it's if we're lucky, So yeah, that stuff but in some ways it is funny.
It is, yeah. Cool. Well, I hope that the tattoo, just how barbering has taken from salon, has trickled down. I see a lot about barbering that I really do hope trickles down into tattooing.
Is there another industry, do you think, that would be like, I don't know, like another? Because I think in the barbering industry, there's things we need to model. But we've been close to the salon one, and it has naturally trickled down. Is there anything closer than barbering, or do you think barbering is actually the closest industry?
I mean, I think in general, like I view that tattooing is at this stage. It's like in its young adulthood as an industry where I was saying this not too long ago. 10 years ago, you could be a meth addicted, convicted felon, and show up anywhere and like make money hand over fist as a tattoo artist. Yeah, like that, nothing would stop you. What's that?
We've known many.
I've worked with many, and they were very successful. Yeah. Nowadays, it's like your social media needs to be on point. Your email, newsletter, your website, your appearance, your game. And even then, you might just do okay. And so the difference between what it took to be successful then and what it takes to be successful now is so different. But over the next 10 years, I don't think it's going to be, that gap is going to be as big. I think what it takes to be successful now will be somewhat different 10 years from now, but I think it'll match what our other industries are required to do. So barbering, hot dog stands, I don't know, like people get their social media game. Like I'm just naming, like it doesn't matter what industry you're in. There's certain practices that are universal.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually just talking about it with a friend last night that our generation, I mean, it's true. We are just born at a weird time, or we're in the middle of this transition period where the generations before us, things came very pre-packaged, right? Like opportunities, this is the direction you go in. You become a doctor, you become a this, you become a that. And the government has this, thing that they're going to take care of you if that doesn't work out, and they're going to, all this stuff. And then we didn't have that, but we kind of were like, had this thing, oh, it's all going to work out. Like, it worked out for my parents. It's going to work out for me, right? And then it's, now we're in our 30s and our 40s, and it's like either we're saying like, oh, it's not going to just work out. We have to do something, but we have to kind of get over this thing of like, I think a lot of people feel like, anything we should have learned in life, I would have learned in my 20s or something, the point being that then Gen Z came along and they from birth kind of got, oh, like this world is fucked. And if I don't rack up some money right now, I can't do nothing, so they just seem to, have this kind of hustle mentality. I mean, there are 20-year-old barbers making more money with more freedom and more independence than the, 50-year-old barber who's been doing it for, however long. I'm just saying that it is the newer generations who are pushing this. And for some reason, us in our 30s and 40s, we just kind of fell in this little gap, and we need to, not lose motivation.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because I've heard an observation from a lot of shop owners that I work with, that I speak to, that they feel like the younger generation of tattooers are not as hustle culture motivated. And it's interesting that, look, there are plenty of younger tattooers that are so fucking hungry and talented, and that will tattoo circles around me or people with decades of tattooing any day. But I wonder if there is just something culture wise that is different in barbering and tattooing. Yeah. I think a lot of people show up in tattooing and they're just like, I have a tattoo machine and I can basically pull some lines. Why am I not making hundreds of thousands of dollars? And it just takes a lot more. Yeah.
I think the tattoo industry just had a very spoiled moment when everybody got lots of money from the government and bought tattoo guns, and everybody's on it. That's just the truth. It's not a bad thing. It's what happened.
Right.
I have friends who are still making good money from that wave, right?
Yeah. Well, I look forward to whatever the future holds. And I'd say to anyone listening, barbers, tattooers, hot dog stand owners, you need to be adaptable. I think that is the number one thing for any industry, any entrepreneur, is don't hold too tightly the way you do what you do, and be willing to adapt and be flexible.
I just want to add, because it's interesting. That's something I remember our mother even saying, she worked for a company, not even like necessarily an entrepreneur, but even within a company, people get laid off all the time at companies. And she said the thing that kept her at the same company for 40 years, for better or worse, was that she was able to be adaptable and create new roles for herself within that company. Right. I think that goes, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, like learn, I guess even more so if maybe you're like the adaptability can start even before you're an entrepreneur.
Right. Yeah. And our mom is a painter, an artist. She has been her whole life. But yeah, she worked for a company. That is an interesting observation. I think in life in general, just always being adaptable and looking to evolve and grow. And I think that's something our family has a lot in common. If I could be grateful for I have a lot of privileges that I'm grateful for, but to come from a family that talks a lot about personal development in the way that we do. And I'm grateful to have those conversations with you and our parents. Yeah. Very cool. Well, Soren, anything else? Like you started some YouTube channel and things you want to share? Anything about that?
Yeah. I started my barbering YouTube channel, Barbers Taking Action, it's called, and on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm excited. I don't quite know what direction it's going. I'm launching many things. Big things coming, let's say, 2024.
2024. If you had any intention for what you're sharing, what would you say that is?
Well, look, I went into creating content with an intention. Truthfully, the intention is I actually love cutting hair. I enjoy the process of it. I love talking about it. The intention is to just create a space where I can be expressed as an expert in cutting hair and see what comes out of that. Really, like you said, I need to be creating more areas for me to be self-expressed.
And barbers aren't going to hunt you down for going on YouTube and sharing tips and tricks for cutting hair.
No, I learned so much about cutting hair from YouTube. Honestly, I'm going to YouTube. That's a good point too. I'm honestly going to YouTube to pass it on, because I learned so much from YouTube, and there's still people cutting hair on YouTube who I feel like they were my teachers, and I want to be that for people. I want to share that with people. I want to contribute to, there's a really interesting world of barbering content, and I want to be a part of that. I want to contribute to it because I've gotten a lot out of it. And I think maybe that's probably a big difference as well in the two, that it's really embraced in the barbering world.
I think there's super taboo to show up on YouTube and talk about what tools you're using and how you're setting it up and what it's so taboo.
So there's shops. There's shops Not so much. I mean, I don't know. Again, like there's also so many different cultures and corners of the barbering world that's I'm really only familiar with certain corners of it. But there are shops where probably it's expected every barber, not like even necessarily like expected like you have to, but it's just kind of like, yeah, of course every barber there has a YouTube channel and has like, is like recording their stuff and posting, like it's almost just the culture. It's the culture of the shops.
It's really interesting. Yeah. Because there's so much similar and there's so many big differences. Cool. Well, cool. I'll share some links for any of your channels and stuff like that. I love to share what you're doing with people. And thank you so much for coming on. And I hope to have you back sometime. We'll talk in the future and see how things progress.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, I just want to prompt that if you got some value out of this conversation, please go and leave us a rating and a review on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you saw this podcast. It really helps me out and it really helps other people to find this podcast. I want more people to have these types of conversations around money so that we can all be more free and at ease and abundant and able to create the lives that we really want to live. So please share this and rate and review. Appreciate it. Thanks.